Let's do that.
Okay. I wasn't planning on... What? Rotate your phone? Oh, jeepers creepers. We're going to just be close and personal tonight because I was not planning on using my phone tonight. So these angles aren't that great. We're kind of tight. Can you guys hear us now? I'm hoping...
Yeah, before I share it.
Hey,
Can you
Megan.
hear us?
Megan, can you hear me? Is this all better now? Let's scoot up a little bit.
Okay.
Maybe. It might really cut us off. Okay. Megan's watching. Megan, please tell me if you can hear me. Oh, I was looking for my phone, but it's right there.
That's why we instantly
Okay.
connected.
Yes.
Besides the Kmart.
Yes, you can hear me. Okay, fantastic. Take 3. We're so close now.
Yay!
All right, guys. Brooke's watching. Thank you guys for hanging in there with us tonight. I was not sure. I have, my husband started a new job, so I was using his work computer. Now I have to use this other computer that I've had since probably 1998. I don't really know.
That's why they can't hear us.
I don't know when I got this computer, but I guess I need to get a new one. So thank you. Hi, Aunt Anita. Hi, Brooke. Hi, Kim. Thanks for joining back on. We're really testing the technology tonight. So let's try this again so you can hear us. And Eric and I are going to try to be as funny and witty as we were the first time.
Exactly.
You keep popping out of the frame.
I'm sorry. I can't.
It's okay.
Get closer to you.
You want to sit on my lap? Okay, guys. But good night. It's your bedtime. Yeah, it's my bedtime too. But whatever. It's fine. Okay, so welcome to ReLive, where we talk about all the things. And tonight I have with me live in my studio. If you guys followed the last 2 weeks, we had guests, but they were on the Facebook Live. Mm-hmm. So it's nice to have a person in the studio again. So thank you so much for coming.
You're welcome. And it's an adorable studio.
Oh, thank you. It does need a little something. I don't know what, but anyway, so Eric and I met, we determined the first time when you couldn't hear us 6 years ago.
Yes.
And it was at MOPS, and we instantly bonded over Kmart, if you guys remember when Kmart was in business. Thank you, Aunt Anita. It is getting really long. I'm trying to grow it out to the, low back. So yeah, I was looking for snow boots and I couldn't find any, or rain boots even, and she was like, you gotta go to Kmart. And I was like, really? So I went to Kmart and there were oodles upon oodles of snow boots, rain boots, whatever it was I was looking for. I mean, it was 6 years ago, guys.
And they might have been buy one, get one for a penny.
They probably were.
Because that's a Kmart thing.
You know what? I think they were, because I think I got snow boots and rain boots. It's all coming back to me. So anyway, we instantly bonded over that. So let me tell you a little bit about Erica. Yes, Mom, that was very, very stressful. And it raised our anxiety, which is a good segue into tonight's show. Whew. Okay, so Erica is a mom of 3. She has, I did this really well the first time, but you guys couldn't hear me. Banks, who's 9. Lainey, who's 6. And Maddox, who's 3. She's a stay-at-home mama, and she helps her husband with a youth group at their church, 6th grade through 12th grade, at River City Church here in town. And she also has a little side gig where she likes to share all-natural beauty products,
makeup and
skincare and makeup through LimeLife, and she loves to do that. Erica also is from Carolina. Which one? North Carolina. I love Carolina.
Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful.
Beautiful. She had to move here. She didn't have to. She got to move here.
Yes.
She got to move here 7 years ago. And remember that number. It's going to be important later. She enjoys working outdoors. She loves the ocean. And in her spare time, she likes to decorate, especially her home or for big events. And I'm very envious of that because it's something I like the end product, but I never want to spend the money for it. So that's the other thing we talked about was at home. Mm-hmm. When people couldn't hear us.
Yes. I enjoy the at home store.
It overwhelms me.
I like a good leisurely stroll through there.
Yeah. but she doesn't take her kids. You just
Not if I
can't.
can help it.
You just can't. Hey, I'm seeing all of these people popping on for the third time, and I really appreciate you guys hanging with us tonight.
Thanks for being patient.
Yes. So, some words that describe Erica that a good friend of her gave her these words. Bold, honest, determined, creative, hardworking, an intentional mom, and a cherished friend. And I thought those were all really sweet words. And I can, what's the word I'm looking for? I can relate with a few of those. Yeah, I can relate. So, all right, so tonight we're going to talk about anxiety, and Erica's going to start by sharing her story with us just a little bit. She, I will let you just kick off by sharing a little bit of your story.
Okay, so I'll share a little bit, and I'll keep it kind of brief and detail free. That way you have time to ask me questions.
Sure,
and stuff.
That sounds great.
So, like Rhiannon said, 7 years ago we moved here from North Carolina. We chose to move here for my husband's job. And it was really hard to leave family. All of my family's there. Moms, aunts, uncles, cousins, brother, my nieces, my sister-in-law. So we, came from like a really strong support system, really good friends, to something brand new. And 12 hours away. So when we moved here, I did have like a normal, what I would consider a normal sense of, sadness because you're leaving behind all that you know, and it can be difficult. And there was some overwhelm because we moved into a rental. We had to unpack everything. We had to sort through, this is just a temporary place we're living.
Right.
So what can we just leave in the garage? What needs to be unpacked? And then all the normal things, getting new doctors, getting, established around town at different places.
Where's the grocery store?
Yes, where's the grocery store? I need a new bank. I need, all of that. So, anyway, we moved here the last week of August of that year, and I did not feel anxious or any absurd level of stress or anything like that. Just like I said, just a normal, way that you would feel with a major life change like that. So for me, the first time was really sudden. We had been here about 6 weeks. 6 weeks? Let's see, September. Yeah, between 6 and 8 weeks. And I had a panic attack. We just sitting at home on the couch. My oldest son Banks, he was 2.5 then. He was asleep in bed. Jonathan and I were watching a movie on the couch, and I couldn't breathe.
Oh my goodness.
He of course tried to calm me down. He's like, "You're not having a heart attack. You're fine." And looking back, I'm so thankful that he, did what he did to keep me calm, because I did think I was having a heart attack. So I ended up in the ER. Had very good people who immediately came to our side to help. Like I said, in a new place, we had people who came and got my son where he needed to be, and just kind of took over things while we did that. So from there, that is kind of where mine started. And I think this is a good time to jump in and mention that everyone's anxiety is not always environmental. And I would like just to say that for me, my anxiety is genetic.
Okay.
So there is a long history of that in my family. So I had that underlying genetic thing there. It was just so happened that this was the environmental aspect that kicked it to the surface.
That triggered it.
Yes. So if you read or study about generalized anxiety, you'll find a lot about it being genetic and about it being environmental, and it can be either or. So for me, I just point out to our viewers that mine was genetically there already. So it was just the move that kind of triggered it. The environmental thing that kicked it off for me.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty big thing. Like,
yeah,
I would be surprised if it didn't trigger it.
Right.
That's a huge thing,
Yes.
especially coming from a huge support system to nothing.
Right.
And it was about 6 weeks, you said?
Yeah, it was only about 6.
That's
it was
crazy.
between 6 and 8 weeks. Because, I mean, like I said, we moved here last week of August, and in October, that happened. So.
Wow. And it's just, I mean, the body is such an amazing thing that it's like, I wonder what was going on at that particular time that all of a sudden your body's like, hey, you got to get this under control.
Yeah.
Do you remember, like, had you guys done anything that day?
Yeah.
Or?
Like I said, we rented
just
a movie.
hanging out.
We had popcorn. We rented a movie. Mm-hmm. Yep. I mean, we put Binks to bed like normal. There was not any reason. And I think that's important for people to understand about anxiety, and for those who might be watching that also have anxiety. It's such a weird concept because there doesn't really have to be any one thing that happens or that necessarily goes wrong. It is just your body's response to, for me, it was my body's response to all the stressors I had kind of been pushing down or forcing to the back of my mind. It was not any over the top, horrible thing that happened or anything like that. It just was a culmination of
It finally
of
had enough.
Right.
And it all came out and sent you to the ER.
It did.
So then, did you leave there with medication? Did you get
so
admitted?
They actually, I didn't get admitted. I stayed overnight there. They ran some extra tests, just simply because my mom's birth father died very young with a heart attack.
Oh, wow.
So they did do like some extra testing and stuff, and your heart is fine, but we're going to recommend you, to a doctor. And honestly, I was so, so thankful, and it was just really a God thing because the doctor that they sent me to was so overly kind and so patient with me as she listened to what I was dealing with. And when I left there, she said, I really think that you need some anxiety medication, but I want you, part of your daily practice, I want you to exercise daily, and I want you praying daily. I never had a doctor tell me before, I want you to pray daily as part of your treatment. So I knew, I'm like, okay, I felt comfortable with her, I could trust her, and I trusted her judgment on the medication. So,
wow. So with that family history of the... Was it family history?
It's my mom's father.
Your mom's father. Okay, so that probably played a big part into why you were thinking you were having a heart attack.
Exactly, yes.
That would be a really scary situation.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
All right, so you noticed about 7 years ago.
That's when it started. Yep, and I was on medication, and I just began to take steps. I had to dive in and get myself involved with people here and kind of try to quickly create a friend group, which, Rianne, you and I are both kind of alike in this way. We're kind of strange in all the best ways.
Right.
But it's hard to put yourself out there. You kind of feel like you're in middle school again.
I mean, yeah, sometimes. Because I feel like with my personality is so out there.
Right.
And I am just like, I'll say what's on my mind.
Yeah.
And, like, if I want to be your friend, like, I'm just, like, going to do it.
Right.
So sometimes people shy away from that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I could see where it would be difficult. Yeah. And I think just as a grown woman, it's harder to make connections.
Right. It is. So. And because people are just trying to do what needs to be done. My gosh. I mean, if you have 2 or 3 kids and, some people have kids and work and there's just, a lot of things. But I had to put myself out there, surround myself with, some people that I could have, grown up conversations with. And my sister-in-law, my husband's sister actually lives here in town. And she was fantastic help during that to, help kind of mentor me a little bit through that. So, yeah. So, I was on an uphill swing.
Awesome.
For about 18 months. During that time, we got pregnant with Lainey. And it was decided that I had to remain on the medicine to function, because I went back and forth a lot with wanting to come off the medicine because I was pregnant. And my OB doctor, as well as my medical doctor, said, no, you have to, stay on this. So as soon as I got to a place, I was so anxious to, I got to be done with this medicine because I'm pregnant and going to nurse this baby. So after about 18 months, I came off the medicine again.
And that was during your pregnancy?
I was on it while I was pregnant, and then for maybe close to her being when she was about a year old, probably is when I was able to. We decided I was able to come off of it again. Okay. Yeah.
So then did you notice it getting worse then, after you came off of it and you've got now a second child? Did that make it worse?
No, everything was really good for a while. And I might want to just pause for a second and talk about maybe what exactly what I was dealing with. I feel like anxiety can be really different for a lot of different.
Let's do it.
A lot of different people. So, and when you go to the doctor with these questions and here's how I'm feeling and what can I do, and you do have to take, there's I forget what it's called, but there's a quiz basically that you take, and they evaluate your anxiety level, and then you have to take one for depression, and I've never dealt with depression in any form, so I can't speak to that tonight, and and clearly I'm not a doctor, I'm just sharing my experience.
Sure.
But for me, for what I was dealing with, I didn't have any type of phobia or any type of social anxiety. I was happy to get out there and find friends, and all of those things were fine. For me, what I was dealing with during those times were mostly a feeling of overwhelm. I felt overwhelmed all the time. Everything just felt like too much for me. Even the simplest things that you've done 100 times just felt like too much, whether that was dishes or laundry or making a grocery list or whatever it was. If there were too many things in my mind that I felt had to be done, that was crushing. It just was a huge weight on me. So the feeling of overwhelm was really big for me.
Okay.
Which I think goes hand in hand with what we call the impossible task.
Okay.
So the impossible task, a lot of people with anxiety will relate to that. And you can Google that and, read up on that. But basically the impossible task is when you cannot do a normal activity, whether it be a chore or even something that you might have enjoyed doing. It feels impossible. If it can take you hours to vacuum your floor and get the dishes washed and run one errand and, get dinner started. It's something that should take a small amount of time.
Right.
Takes forever. You just feel like you don't even know where to start. Everything feels impossible. Those two things for me were the biggest. I wasn't afraid of anything. I didn't think anything was going to happen to anyone. Like I said, I didn't have any social anxiety. It was really just the feeling of overwhelm, the impossible task, and tons of guilt. I felt guilty about everything. Everything. I felt guilty if I spent too much time playing with the kids. I felt guilty if I spent too much time not playing with the kids. I felt guilty if I would feel like I cooked the wrong thing for dinner, or I would feel guilty if I said, no, I can't come to that coffee date. And then, just everything held a huge, sense of guilt. And during that time, Jonathan has said to me so many times, he's like, you always want to do this thing, and then when we go do it, you're like, I really wish we were doing the other thing. It's like if we go you are dying to go do something, and we go do it, and then you're like, oh, I should have just stayed home. Which is so true. That's just how it is. Or if we had stayed home, I would have been like, oh, why didn't you do that? You know? it was like there's no, everything I felt like a guilt for not doing the other thing. And I think it might sound crazy to people who don't deal with it, but it's beyond our control. People who deal with anxiety, it's not like you can't say to me, well, just do it. Just wash the dishes, and it would take you 10 minutes and get it done. That I know that. Like, you know, I don't need you to tell me that, because I know that my body is fighting me on that.
Right.
My own mind is saying, like, you can't do that. Right. It's going to take too long. So we know, we're aware, like, we're aware we need to be doing those things, but you physically cannot do it. So maybe that gives a little bit of insight.
Yeah. Wow.
I cannot speak to other things like, you know, phobias or crowded places or, you know, anxiety with social interaction and things like that. You know, I can only speak to what I dealt with, but
wow.
So
that's hard for me to imagine how that feels.
And it's hard to explain, and I think that's why a lot of people in our society don't really talk about it, because when we do sit and try to explain it does sound like, well, why don't you just do it, you know, or
right.
But you went to dinner and had fun. Why'd you wish you were at home? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
I can't help it.
It's like you constantly have the fear of missing out. Like, I'm doing this.
Kind of, yeah.
But if I was at home, what would I do?
And you know, that's a good example. I think really, for me, is the decision. Like, it's decision fatigue. It's like, did I make the right choice? Maybe I should have stayed home. Like, a lot of it is just the teetering back and forth between, am I doing the right thing? Is this the right use of my time?
Right.
And then every time feeling like it was not the right use of your time.
Right.
So.
Or a task like picking out a picture to send to me.
Yes, like that. Like that. Oh, and maybe you guys might enjoy knowing that when Rianne asked me to be on here, and she sent me dates, she was like, do you want to do next Tuesday? I was like, oh my gosh, no. Gives me anxiety thinking about having to talk about anxiety just 1 week from now.
Yeah. So we picked a date that seemed so far in the future.
Seemed so far away.
But we're here now.
We're here now.
I cannot believe that we are. I looked at this, November 19th, and I was like, did I type that right? Like, is today really the 19th?
I know. Yes.
Like, Thanksgiving's next week.
Yes.
All right, so.
Okay, I feel like that was really far on some tangent.
I think that's great. That's great. I would love to hear what you guys are thinking, those of you that are watching. And if you want to share, if you have similar experiences, if you've ever experienced the impossible task or that feeling of overwhelmed just about everything. I find it interesting, though, that you guys are remodeling your house.
Yeah.
That seems like an impossible task to me.
I think because I enjoy it. I enjoy decor and things like that. And really, like I said before, it in the same way that it's not one big horrible thing that triggers anxiety, I don't tend to have as much trouble with, like, as crazy as it seems, with those kind of decisions. Like, okay, so last year, some friends of ours were in St. Lucia, and they texted us, group text from St. Lucia, hey, do you guys want to come back? Do you guys want to go, like, somewhere in 2021 with us? Like, we're going to book it while we're here, and, you know, because we'll get a discount, and, I mean, and literally, like, in one text, we're like, yes, do it, book it, wherever, we don't care where we go, like, no problem deciding those kinds of things.
Okay.
I mean, not that I don't go back and forth with paint colors and stuff like that.
Right.
Everyone does. But it's really the everyday. It's the everyday things.
So,
what
like,
some may consider the mundane.
Where to go to dinner?
Yeah, where to go to dinner.
That one's hard for you?
Sometimes.
I feel like that's hard for a lot of people.
Sometimes, yeah. That's pretty common.
Yeah.
Common, hard one. But
what do we have? Someone made a comment, and I got to get all the way up here like this to read it. I tuned in late, but so many people deal with anxiety, and it's so important to go talk to a professional. We need to get over the stigma that seeing a therapist is bad. Absolutely.
Yes.
Amen. the beginning of October, I had a therapist. Well, she is a nationally certified psych mental health nurse practitioner. And we talked about suicide and getting over the stigma, like, you can't talk about it. Like, no, we need to talk about it. And these are things that we need to talk about. So thanks for making that comment, Ashley.
Yeah.
So you had mentioned that there isn't just like one thing that necessarily triggers it. Are there things that like increase your anxiety?
So I would like to say that now I am in a super stable place. For me, I need I need the daily medicine to function. I'm not embarrassed to say that. I'm not. I don't personally have a problem with saying that I need that or that I may need to go. You know, I've not yet used a counselor outside of my own personal mentors, but I would be totally okay to do that if need be. So I'm in a really good place now, but yes, since this past summer, honestly, since last fall, it was a slow progression down again. So I've actually recently just switched medicines and switched the dosage, clearly under a professional care. But yes, there are triggers. I could tell I was not in a good place because of the triggers. So yes, for me, I could tell when I start feeling like those things are impossible. Noise would bother me so bad. Like I mean, if the kids were too loud, if the kids were screaming, even in like happiness, and it startled me, my heart would beat 100 miles an hour. Noise, clutter, if there's too much stuff, my brain just can't deal with it. So noise, the decision making, the clutter, that's kind of when I can start to tell I'm not feeling so good. This is probably a little more than just not a good night's sleep, or a little more than just a grumpy day. We all have grumpy days, but yeah, so those are a few of the things I know. I also notice I have to evaluate myself internally a lot, because sometimes I think people are annoying me, and it's really me just being like, so that is a key for me too. When I find myself being snippy, especially to people that I love and care about, or if I feel myself being annoyed by the kids, questions, or watching their shows that they put on after dinner. When I find myself starting to not enjoy those things and feeling grumpy about them, those are indicators for me that, okay, something's
off.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how often, like, do you have to have blood work done to check, like, levels of anything? Like, to change your dosage?
Not for my dosage, but I personally have had a lot of blood work done lately because just some of my symptoms were going hand in hand with some other things.
Okay.
This since last fall, or last winter, I've had some really severe hair loss. This past summer, between the last week of June and the third week of August, for me, you know me well enough to know weight is no big deal to me. Weight is nothing but a number. How I feel matters, but because I noticed such a rapid weight gain, in a period of just about 6 to 8 weeks, I had gained 22 pounds.
Okay.
So things like that, noticing, why am I gaining so much weight? Oh, it's because, that's something else I should mention, because we might have viewers that relate to that. Eating was something I could control. So if I felt like things were too much and I couldn't do the things that needed to be done, I did know I could, like, make a cup of coffee and have a Kit Kat. I wasn't, like, turning to food for any sort of fulfillment, but I was filling the holes in my day. I'm like, I don't know what else to do. Like, I need to be doing all this stuff, but, like, that was something I could, like, control. So that's been tough. I mean, it's tough when you start feeling yourself, oh gosh, I'm getting sluggish, I don't feel the best. So that's been tough. So now that I'm in a really good place mentally again, I'm working back towards being in a better place physically.
Right.
So.
Yeah. It is tough when we have all of these other things that are products of something else going on that we're trying to fix.
Yes.
And then those other things, like you said, feeling sluggish because you've put on 22 pounds. Like,
yeah. So to go back to your original question, that is why she was doing blood work and some other things, because she wanted one problem at a time is her thing. So if this is okay, then let's move to this, and then let's move to this. So, and so for a while, I had to see her every 2 weeks when I first started the new medicine, and so she's a good.
So then, how do you know when maybe your dosage is off and you have to get it adjusted? Is it just by how you're feeling?
Yeah, so that's only actually happened to me just once, which was just recently. When I texted you and said, okay, I know what I want to talk about. That was actually just back in September.
Okay.
It had gotten really bad. My heart was racing all the time. I would be exhausted but not sleeping. Also something that is, for me, I'm sure I'm not the only one, but when you deal with anxiety, you can feel so alone, so isolated and lonely, and hate that feeling, but yet you want to remain alone.
Yeah.
And it's such a weird thing to even say, but I felt lonely all the time, but I wanted to remain alone.
You didn't want to go hang out with anybody. Right. Okay.
So
wow.
Those kinds of things. Yeah, and so like I said, this past time, the beginning of September, it had gotten pretty bad. I had a few days where I was vomiting, and at first I thought I had a little bug because the kids and school had recently started back, and then I'm like this is
something else.
My heart's racing nonstop.
I think it's important then to notice, you need to listen to your body and be an advocate for yourself.
Yes.
And don't hesitate to call the doctor. That's why they're there.
I'm 100% for, like you said, we work with youth. I am a Christian. I'm 100% for prayer, 100% for counseling. I'm also 100% for if you hurt your arm and you thought your arm was broken, you would go to the ER for that.
Absolutely.
So if I feel like I'm breaking down mentally, why would I just think I can just fix it on my own? I 100% think you have to listen to your body and to what your mind is trying to tell you.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That reminds me when I had the psych mental health nurse practitioner on, she said if your friend calls you up and says, I'm having a heart attack, you don't say, oh, well, let's do lunch tomorrow.
Right.
Like how sometimes people feel like, hey, I'm having these bad thoughts, and we just kind of brush it off to the side. Yes. No, absolutely, we need to take care of our mental health. It's just as important.
Yeah. I think that's a good segue into something that I'd like to mention. Maybe for people who aren't dealing with anxiety but know someone who is, or maybe they're watching because they want to help someone that they love. One of the greatest things that my friends have done for me, a few things. One is they don't ask, what can I do? More than one time I've had a friend say, hey, I'm going to pick up a rotisserie chicken for you and drop it off at your house so you don't have to, do anything. I've had a friend who texted me at 9 o'clock one morning and said, hey, I have one for you. I have 1 hour this morning. I'm coming over at 9:30. I'm bringing you a coffee. We're going to fold laundry, do whatever you need to do if you just want to talk. And at 10:30, I'm leaving. But they don't ask, they just do. So that's one thing. But another thing is I have a great group of friends who do not try to offer advice or try to make things better. They ask questions. Which is... I think we're a lot alike in the thing that we're just so excited to talk. We just let's talk. It's not interrupting. We're just having a conversation. But I have friends who will just ask me a question and then I can answer it. And then they'll say, well, how are you feeling? Maybe they start with that. And so I'll say it. And then they'll say, what are you... It's just question after question after question. They don't try to make me feel better. There's no advice. And so their freedom to just say out loud and to process what I'm feeling is amazing. Even if they never offer any piece of advice, just knowing that someone is listening and saying, I want to understand you better.
Right.
Like, I don't get it, but I want to understand you better.
Right. And I think that's a good point. I think we should reiterate that, like, not asking what can I do? Because I imagine for somebody with anxiety that has a hard time making decisions and feeling overwhelmed, like, I don't know what you can do.
Yeah.
You know? Instead, just saying, let them know you're doing this.
Yeah.
And that's really helpful. It's kind of like stuff for a new mom. Like,
yes, exactly.
You know, don't say, hey, when can I bring you dinner? Just say,
I'm
like,
bringing
hey, I'm bringing you dinner Wednesday night.
Yep.
So don't cook.
Right.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So we talked about certain triggers and techniques. Besides medicine and prayer, are there any other things that you use to help manage it?
Yeah. So something that I've just started doing in maybe the last 6 months, I have adopted this theory. It's not a new theory, and I didn't make it up. It's very well known. I mean, Martin Luther King Jr. and, you know, many other people, is the thought of the next right thing. And I actually would love to give a shout out to a podcast. It's called The Next Right Thing, by Emily P. Freeman. It's been life-changing for me.
Really?
And she gives the same little spiel at the beginning of every podcast. She explains the thought process. What does the next right thing mean? That is my daily motto. When I say, okay, what is the next right thing like to do right now? If is the next right thing, okay, I need to make all the beds. Okay, the beds are made. So now what's the next right thing? It might be if Maddox is tugging at my leg saying, hey, read this book, Mommy, read this book, Mommy. Then in that moment, the next right thing might be to sit down and read the book. 20 minutes go by. Okay, what's the next right thing? Well, maybe we have somewhere to be, and I say, okay, right now the next right thing is that I need to, you know, put on some more decent clothes and put my hair up so we can go out.
Right.
So the concept of what is the next right thing has been a lifesaver for me. Because I can stop thinking of my life as a whole, or even stop thinking of, you know, the day as this 12-hour stretch, and just think about, okay, what needs to be done right now? What needs to be done right now? And maybe sometimes what needs to be done right now is for something 12 hours away. Maybe I need to, you know, put something in the crock pot for dinner. But before, I would think about, oh my gosh, we have to eat tonight. Like, do you know what I mean?
Right.
So changing my thought process to what is the next right thing has been, like, amazing for me. So...
yeah, that's good.
I've just adopted that into the daily fabric of my life now.
You said it was Emily P.
Emily
Freeman?
P. Freeman is
the
her
next
name.
Right thing.
The Next Right Thing is the podcast.
I'll see if I can...
And they're quick listens. They're usually 10 to 20 minutes, all of them. Yeah.
I'll see if I can put the link or...
Yeah.
I'm not really good with podcasts, so we'll figure out how to, put a link or something in there. Cool. Awesome. That reminds me of the saying, what's the best way to eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So just breaking your day down into those pieces. I think that's a really good thing.
Yeah.
You talked earlier about genetics and how it was a genetic
For me,
thing,
it was. Yes.
but there was that environmental trigger
Yes.
that made it happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was talking with my friend Amanda recently about this, and she was saying that, but even if we hadn't moved here, the trigger would have eventually happened. For me, because it is just threaded throughout, I would love to be the stopper for my, it stops with me, and this will not go on to, my kids or my brother's kids. I would love for that to be, and of course that's what I'm praying for. But if that doesn't happen, then I can at least, and I don't like to say dealing with. I've stopped saying that I deal with anxiety, and I only say the positive spin of it, that I'm overcoming anxiety. So at least I'll be able to, be prepared to help them if they need it. But I would love to be, okay, this is it. We are done with this part of our bloodline.
That brings up an interesting point then. So as a mom, do you feel like you're positioned to look for those things in your children where it might be like, oh,
yeah,
looks like Maddox is probably
sure.
going to be an overcoming anxiety.
I do look. I do.
And does that give you anxiety?
No.
Like it would give me anxiety to think about.
Maddox is a boss baby. He gives me anxiety a lot, anyways. But it's very mischievous. I just tend to have a really tender heart to them if I feel like they're sad. I find myself a lot of times, especially with Banks, because he's a boy, and they just kind of generally have that, whatever kind of face. I'll say, Bud, what's wrong? Nothing. Are you sure? I feel like something's wrong. Are you okay? And Jonathan's supposed to say, he's fine. It's fine.
Right.
But I do feel like I am just predisposed to having, like, an eye for that and wondering. So, but he is a happy kid. Like, I don't, but yes, I see what you're saying. I do kind of look for that, yeah.
Boys are so like... Yeah. My husband a long time ago told me that guys, boys, males have a nothing box where they can actually just be like sitting there thinking about absolutely nothing.
That makes sense.
And so I often, like, if I ask Liam, what are you thinking about? He's like, nothing. I was like, okay, yeah, I get it. I don't have that luxury. Like, there's always something going on in my mind.
Yeah.
So that's a good segue into advice that you would give other people that maybe are dealing with or
working to overcome.
Maybe they're feeling some of these things that you've mentioned and have yet been treated, diagnosed with anxiety.
I think it's really important to just be honest with yourself. Don't try to say, well, work is really stressful right now, or well, I had an argument with my significant other, or, well, the kids have been really tough lately. I think it's important to sit down and say, am I in a place, am I thinking, is my heart racing? Am I thinking negatively about things? Like, just be really honest with yourself. In some ways, the same way as we say, oh, my shoulder is hurting, like, I think it's just a pulled muscle, and we might say that for a week, and if it's a pulled muscle, it'll go away. But if you're, like, 2 or 3 months in, then I would really suggest, making a trip to the doctor and saying, hey, this is how I'm feeling, and just staying on top of it before before it gets as far as mine did, and ending up in the ER.
Right, absolutely.
So,
and I might add, too, that if you don't feel like you're connecting with your provider, there are so many other providers out there.
Yeah.
If you don't like what they're saying, or it doesn't hurt to get a second opinion, like, I feel like we really have to be advocates for ourselves, and we have to be a voice for ourselves because, like, we know what's going on. We just need someone to help us through it.
Yes.
And so I think that's really important.
Yes.
Okay.
I agree.
All right. Well, that's all of my questions. Do you have anything that you wrote down that you
I don't know. Let me see.
didn't get the opportunity to share tonight?
I will look. Did anyone else have any questions?
Yeah, let's see if anybody has any questions. Thank you all for watching. I love that I get to get up so close. I try to be open about my struggles with depression and anxiety to try to normalize it and make people feel comfortable about talking with me about if they struggle with similar issues. Absolutely. I think that's a really good point. Like, this is something that we need to make more normal. So thank you for sharing that. Is there anything else?
I might also like to add, I do have something I want to add, because I think I would love for people to know, that just because someone is dealing with anxiety, I feel like there might be the stigma that people think that we are like miserable people who hate our lives, and that is 100% not the case at all.
Right.
We are normal people. I love life. I find so much joy in my kids and in the renovation of my home and all of those things. Like, we're normal people. It's just my body was fighting against me for a while. Yeah. Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
So I think it would help for people to not think of people that have struggles like this, that they're sad all the time, or because that's just that absolutely can be the case sometimes, but that's not the case for every single person. So I think it helps to know that that we're just normal people. So
just made differently.
Yeah. Something else that I had to learn to do was I had to learn to love what must be done. So because for me, a lot of the things, like I said, were the mundane task and things.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think part of you had asked what had helped me get through this besides medication, was learning to love what must be done, and just finding a lot of tasks are joyless. So I think to say finding the joy in those might not be the right word, but I have learned to love what must be done.
Absolutely.
And I do my best to spin it, to, folding laundry is an opportunity to pray for the people that wear these clothes, or, I let Maddox help me load the dishwasher. It's a lot more fun when you have a 3-year-old boy helping you.
Interesting that you use the word fun. A lot more fun.
Yeah. Something like that.
Stressful.
But so I found that when I learned to love what must be done, helped me immensely.
That's interesting because it's a lot of things are all about our perspective, right? And shifting our mindset.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. Do you keep a gratitude journal?
I don't. I have before in the past, when Ann Voskamp was, first real big and into, 1,000 gifts and all that. Haven't done it for years. I feel like I keep tabs of sorts like that in my brain, but I don't usually make it onto paper. But
sure,
that would be something good to to encourage your listeners to do. But.
Awesome. Very good. Anything else in your little journal there?
I didn't think so. I think we kind of
covered a lot tonight.
I think we did. I think we covered.
She has pages upon pages of notes, you guys. It's awesome.
Just wanted to make sure that
Someone's honking for us. Did you
hear that honk? What was that?
Honk honk? I don't know.
Yeah. No, I think that has covered it.
Cool. Awesome.
If it's covered it for you.
I think so. I learned a lot. I didn't realize there were so many layers, I guess, or different types of anxiety.
There are. Generalized anxiety disorder is what I deal with.
Okay.
A lot of things fall under the anxiety spectrum. Even OCD falls under anxiety.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's just a lot. Phobias fall under anxiety. So, but generalized anxiety is what.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on and sharing your story and your heart with us. I really appreciate it.
I do hope it in some way helped someone. So.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And thank you guys for hanging there with us tonight and being patient of getting, take 3.
Yes.
It worked.
Third time's the charm.
We'll be here next week for the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. And I was trying to remember what the topic is, but
next week?
I don't remember. I'll have to look. I know, the week after that, but yeah. I mean, next week is Thanksgiving, so yeah. I'll let you guys know probably next Monday. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming on every week and supporting me. Have a good night. Bye.